Our next con is evidence of academic declines. So voucher students showed math score declines, no consistent academic improvement, and quality varied widely among private schools. So this actually really hit home for me because this was actually a major con that I ended up facing. So I did the switch between public school and into public school into private school, kind of going into my ninth grade year. Eighth grade, I was in public school all the way up until eighth grade. And then ninth grade, my parents decided to make the switch. Okay. The only problem with that as it pertains to my math scores was my math that I was taking in public school was actually a year behind when I got into private school. So when I was a freshman in high school, I took math with eighth graders. When I was a sophomore, I took it with ninth graders, and so on until I got into my senior year of college. Now, what messes me up in the long run is now I'm in college and there are math classes I just have not taken because technically I was behind. Okay. So now I'm in high school. I'm not in high school, but now I'm in college and I've never taken calculus. What's another math class? We'll just stick with calculus. I've never had calculus. I don't know anything about it. I don't even think I really want to do it. But it's crazy that what I should have been taking in my high school years, I'm not going to have to take in my collegiate years. No consistent academic improvement. So while being in private school is absolutely amazing, everybody's levels is kind of different. So when you're in public school, you have AP, honors, dual enrollment, so on and so forth. And then you also have students that are in the regular education classes. Fine. Because it's levels there. When you're in the private school setting, they don't really move with like honors classes. I mean, in a way they kind of do, but I think it's really just based on like the classroom period. So even if you kind of get to the point where you are starting to advance or you kind of get it and you're like bored in class, they sometimes just kind of keep you in that general ed class. It's one of those things where if you weren't honors AP when you came in, we're not going to move you up. You know what I'm saying? So that's just one of those things that kind of just hinder you and kind of just hold you back a little bit. And then quality is varied widely among private schools. So in one private school I was at, they really valued family. They valued community. They valued entrepreneurship because it was a lot of people who have been in private school all of their lives. And so their parents were like doctors and lawyers and realtors and all of these really amazing things. And so they kind of really helped you for what you were going to be and who you're going to become once you left the school setting. Now, going to my college prep school, what made it a little bit harder was they had some family values and cultural values, but their main thing was once you leave here, you're going to college. So when the other school is like, oh, we're preparing you for life, this other school over here is saying life is cool, but I'm preparing you for when you actually get into the workforce. And so their values in this college prep school was a little bit more stricter. They were a little bit more stricter with their parameters rather than being willy-nilly. They kind of had set out like, When you go to college, you're going to be this. You're going to have these type of teachers. So these are the type of conversations that they were going to have with us. We are going to treat you like you were in college. And I will say that when I got to college, this definitely did help. But then at the same time, it did hurt because they were a little bit more stricter than... A little bit more stricter? I don't think that's right. But they were more stricter than my college professors. So the quality basically shifts depending on what school you're in and what your teacher may feel like is valuable. Our next con is accountability concerns. So private schools are not held to the same standards, limited oversight of public funds, and then special education protections are weaker. So when you are in the public school setting, there is literally a place for everybody. There are places for people that get it faster. There are places for people that get it a little slower. And then you have some people right in the middle. So in public school, it's you have a place, and you have a place. In private school, it's really not that way. They try to make it to where they stick you in a class. Everybody kind of understands in the same way, shape, form, or fashion. So if you would be considered, or if your child would be considered somebody in the special education section or kind of underneath that category, then there really isn't a lot of help. There just really isn't a lot of help in that section. As it pertains to funding, there may be some things in your private school where as a whole, it is absolutely amazing. But then there are a lot of times where you guys are hosting fundraisers. And for example, we used to have a fundraiser, and this was every Friday. And it was like, if you paid $1 or something, whatever, then you could wear jeans on Friday. Now that was at one school. Another school, you could do like a regular like school shirt with some jeans. Another one could be, we did Chick-fil-A biscuits in the morning. You could pay X amount of money to get a biscuit before school, and then so on and so forth. And in this public school setting, it's a wide variety of funding, issues, and it calls for a lot of donations, a lot of asking, a lot of, hey parents, if you could find it in your heart, or if you would like to donate, then that. Whereas in public schools, it seems like their things are just way nicer, because I think every year they can kind of get new stuff. Whereas in private school, it's just not the same case. Segregation and inequality risks. This was a huge one. Risk of increased racial segregation, economic stratification, and peer diversity shifts. So, being a minority, one of the things that I have faced, not personally, but as a whole, was the fact that you don't look like us, we don't want you here. Now, that it wasn't something that was said directly, but that was one of the things that we faced. You're not like us. When we drew up the plans of what this school would be, we did not, make accommodations for you in your kind. And private schools bring out a lot of controversy as it pertains to segregation and inequality risks. segregation also plays a role because sometimes they look at the minorities and they don't expect you to excel the way a majority may excel. And that's hurtful when you have the same goals and you're on the same path as everybody in your vicinity. Peer diversity shifts. You see a lot of, we're black girls over here, we're white girls over here, we're Asian girls over here, so on and so forth. You may think it's not a big deal, but it actually is a major deal. Especially when it comes to things like group projects or whatever the case may be. Group projects, for example. If I'm Ashriel and as a little black girl and I'm in the group with somebody that does not look like me, act like me, or have the same values, it can get a little dicey and it can get a little hard to manage. And so this is why this is actually a major con. What I have learned in the school system is kids are mean. That's just what it is. Kids are mean. And a lot of the things that I have witnessed in the private school setting are very simple. This parent drives a Tesla and they're dropping their kids off in scrubs, which means they are probably a doctor, they are a nurse, they are somewhere in the medical field. And then this person wears Gucci and Louis and Prada, all of these designer items. And then the next car behind you might be a Toyota Camry. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a little Honda Civic. Whatever the case may be. And sometimes kids are mean based off of things that they see and they do not know. So this is definitely a major con. Like I said, it's something that I have experienced 101. It is something that I have experienced in a group. It is something that just naturally happens. Many voucher students were already in private schools. So a significant portion of voucher recipients were already enrolled in private schools before receiving public funds. Public money may subsidize families who were not previously in underperforming public schools. Limited evidence that vouchers primarily serve the most disadvantaged students. And then it raises concerns about whether vouchers expand access or simply redistribute funding. I think this is one of our last cons. Public school financial strain. This is also a major one. So you deal with segregation, you deal with all of these other things, and the financial strain is just kind of one of the hardest things that people have to deal with, and it will make you question: do you want to be in the public school setting, or do you not? So funding decreases, fixed operational expenses remain, resource cuts impact remaining students. Okay. Kind of going back to what were we talking about? Segregation and resources being cut and impacting students. One of the things that I have faced was, or that I've noticed is, because these private schools don't get a lot of money from the government, there are a lot of teachers who play more than one job. So in a public school, the PE teacher was just the PE teacher. The English teacher was just the English teacher. And then, you may see them at games. Okay, cool, whatever. When you get in the private school setting, there may be a basketball coach who teaches English. There may be an art teacher who is the coach of lacrosse. That's just what it is. And so there was a lot of 2-position jobs just because they can't afford to pay a lot of people. Now, where the resource cuts impact students, where it gets really dicey is when you have a teacher and the board decide we are cutting this person's program. We are cutting this person's program. And at my college prep school, in order to be a teacher, you had to have a program, a team, and you had to teach a class. So, if they cut your program, you are cut from being staff. So, it hurts. Now, I did say that this is public school financial strain. That is what it's like on the private school side. Now, on the public school side, when you have a coach or you have somebody and you decide, this is it, we don't want you anymore, that takes a very hefty negative impact on the students. For example, if you come in and you are the football coach and you have been a mentor, a leader, a teacher, another father and mother, another confidant to these students, and you cut their resources, you will see just how much of an impact that person made on all these students. If the school is not doing well, the funding decreases. Yeah, y'all. So just cuts, deficits, and strain. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, so the con side summary. We're about to wrap it up. I know this is long, so please forgive me. So critics argue vouchers. Critics argue vouchers drain public funding, lack accountability, produce inconsistent academic results, and increase inequality. Critics contend that voucher programs risk weakening the public education system while producing inconsistent academic results. Okay, y'all. In conclusion, school vouchers are not simple. Evidence shows mixed academic outcomes, some graduation benefits, financial strain on public systems. Equity outcomes depend on policy design. So then the real question becomes, are vouchers expanding opportunity or redistributing it? That's up for you to decide. This is all that I have for you guys today. My name is Ashley, your friend, and thank you for kind of sticking around with me for these 40 minutes, 30-ish, 35, 40 minutes while I broke down the pros and the cons of school vouchers. All right, bye-bye.